Hi, my name is Jason and I'm an application engineer at 3M. Today we're bringing you the first video in a three-part series on the main factors that cause dirty paint jobs. Most dirt and contamination in paint jobs comes down to one of three things. It's either coming from the paint booth, the dirt and contamination is coming from how we clean and prep our panels, or it's coming from the painter themselves. In the video today, we're going to talk to you about the first of those factors, which is booth cleanliness. So the first thing I like to talk about when it comes to the paint booth is make sure you have your booth company's maintenance schedule for that booth. Every booth manufacturer has different recommendations for their specific equipment, so make sure you reach out to them and get the one that applies to the booth that you're using. For the booth we're in today, it's going to give us a log of things we should do daily, things we should do weekly, things we should do every month, every quarter, and every year. No matter what kind of booth that you're using, you should have some type of surface protection, whether it's a stick-on cloth type surface protection or a spray-on peel-off type. Not a lot of people realize that all of these surface protections can be cleaned. So I always recommend cleaning them before you just replace them. You can get a lot more life out of it than you may be currently getting. If we look at the wall behind me, we can see that the top of this is pretty clean. As we move down into this area, it starts to get dirtier. This is from not spraying in our booth correctly. You want to make sure as a painter when you're in the booth, most of the time your back should be facing the wall and you want to be spraying towards the exhaust pit. The booth we're in today is a very large booth. We use this for a lot of training classes and a lot of industry events. At times we'll have 14 to 20 people in here all spraying at one time. If you look around this booth, you'll notice that the walls are pretty clean and our surface protection has been up for months. The reason it can be up that long is, again, we're utilizing that spray zone to make sure we're capturing as much overspray as we can into the filters of the booth where it's designed to go and not onto the walls. So make sure you're never spraying at the walls, you're always spraying towards the center. When you spray at the walls, your surface protection will start to load. What I recommend doing is once a day or at least once a week with a broom and the booth running in spray mode is just sweep the walls to knock any loose stuff off of this surface. Once you've cleaned that, it's then time to go to the floor. I recommend sweeping the floor, or if you're using surface protection on the floor as well, vacuuming that the same times you're sweeping your walls. So once a day preferably, at a minimum you gotta do that at least once a week. The air hose is gonna be very close to the paint job the entire time you're spraying the vehicle. You wanna make sure that's clean, or at least that there's no loose stuff that could fall off of the hose and get into the paint. What I like to do is take the tack rags that I used to clean off the vehicle when I was spraying the last job, and the next job when I go in, I'll use that old tack rag to wipe down at least the last 4 or 5 feet of that hose, where my hand is gonna slide up and down it and could knock debris off into the paint. You can see just by rubbing it a few times, we get quite a bit of dirt and dust coming off of that hose. Now that we have this nice clean environment and perfect place to spray our jobs to help minimize contamination, we want to make sure we keep it that way. There's a few things to keep in mind that'll really help you do that. The first is to minimize traffic in and out of the booth. So anytime you're in here painting, no one else should be in here with you unless you need help holding something or it's a big job and 2 people need to spray in the booth at the same time. If outside people are coming in and they're not wearing paint suits and they might have some type of contamination on them, that can work its way into your paint jobs. The last thing to keep in mind is anytime we're bringing vehicles in or out, parts are in and out, anything's coming in or out of this spray booth, we want to make sure that the booth is running in spray mode. Booths are designed to run at a slightly positive pressure. That means that anytime we open the doors, air is going to blow out instead of pulling things in. So we want to make sure we keep that booth running anytime the doors are open. The next thing I want to talk to you about is changing your booth filters. Most people know about the standard exhaust filters in the floor or the sidewall of their booth, depending on the type of booth that you have. Those should be changed out pretty regularly. As those exhaust filters start to plug up too much, the pressure can get too high and then it's hard to close doors and the booth just may not run properly. The airflow may start to drop, which can also lead to overspray issues in the booth. So we want to make sure we're changing those at the right time. You can also just do a visual check of the filters. If they start to get really, really dirty, it's time to change them. It's also a good idea to pull the floor grate, look at the back side of the filter and see if it's dirty all the way through. Some of the newer filters have a 3-dimensional pattern in them, and the outside loads very, very quickly while the inside is still clean. This is by design to let those filters work for a much longer period of time and keep your costs for buying booth filters down. So make sure you know when your booth filters expire. Again, you can reach out to whoever you're buying them from. They should have either a visual guide or a weekly type schedule that'll tell you how many hours you can get out of those filters. Don't forget to look up if you're in a downdraft booth and see the intake filters as well. One more set of filters we don't want to forget about, and a lot of people do, are the filters that are actually in the air makeup unit. Those are not filters you can see just by standing around looking. They're typically around the side of the booth. Sometimes they're up on the roof depending on where your air makeup unit is. So those filters are easily forgotten about. You want to make sure you check those according to your booth manufacturer's maintenance schedule. And if you remove them, make sure you install them back the right way. They typically have arrows or indicators showing the direction of airflow, how it should move through those filters. Make sure you're lining them up properly. If you put a filter in backwards, it's not going to function the right way. And if that was a filter that's been in there for a few months already, there might be a lot of contamination on the surface. And if you install it backwards, it's going to pull that contamination directly into the booth. So let's pull a floor grate and we'll do a visual inspection of our exhaust filters. That's all the tips I have for you around maintaining a clean paint booth. Be sure to stay tuned for the next video in this series that has to do with cleaning all of our panels, our stands, and prepping everything to move into our fresh, clean booth. If you have tips for how you keep your booth clean, and you have advice for other painters that may have struggles with contamination, be sure to put those in the comments below. If you enjoyed this content, be sure to like and subscribe. For more content like this, be sure to check us out at 3M Collision Repair Academy, the link to which can be found in the description below. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.